Good morning, everyone. In life, we often find ourselves entangled in the noise around us, opinions, judgments, and constant chatter. We get so caught up in proving ourselves to others that we lose sight of our own journey. Today, I want to remind you of a simple yet profound truth. Focus on yourself and stay silent. Silence is not just the absence of sound, it is the presence of yourself. When you become silent, truly silent, you realize that most of the noise that disturbs you is within. It is not the world that is too loud, it is your mind. The moment you choose to be silent, the world becomes quieter too. In that space, you discover clarity, peace, and your true potential. Silence is self-awareness. It is a state of being where you are not just quiet on the outside, but also calm and centered within. When you choose to be silent, you create a space to truly connect with yourself. In that space, you can observe your thoughts without reacting to them, allowing you to understand your own mind. Often, we are so consumed by the need to respond, explain, or justify ourselves that we forget to simply be present. Silence teaches you to pause, to hold back from unnecessary reactions, and to let your inner world settle. When you practice silence, you become aware of your own patterns, your own habits, and the subtle ways your mind pulls you in different directions. You start noticing how often your thoughts are influenced by the external world, by what others think, say, or expect. Silence strips away the layers of noise that cloud your perception, revealing your authentic self. It is in this silence that you begin to understand your own desires, your own fears, and your true purpose. There is a misconception that being silent is a sign of weakness or submission. On the contrary, it is an act of immense strength. Choosing not to respond to provocations or distractions requires a level of self-control that many do not possess. Silence does not mean passivity, it means choosing your responses consciously rather than impulsively reacting. It is about being rooted in your own truth rather than being swayed by the turbulence of opinions around you. People often mistake noise for power. They believe that being loud and outspoken means they are being strong. But true power lies in being able to hold your ground without feeling the need to shout about it. When you are silent, you conserve your energy, directing it inward rather than wasting it on unnecessary conflicts. This quiet strength is not just respected but also deeply admired, for it reflects a person who is in control of themselves, not just their surroundings. In silence, you gain clarity. You begin to see situations as they are rather than as your emotions paint them. This clarity leads to better decision-making because your actions are rooted in understanding rather than impulse. The ability to be silent also cultivates patience. Instead of rushing to react, you take a step back, giving yourself the space to process and respond with wisdom. Therefore, silence is not merely the absence of words, it is the presence of self. It is a state where you choose to be mindful, where you allow yourself to experience life without the need to constantly narrate it. Through silence, you learn to listen to your own heart, to the subtle messages life sends your way, and to the deeper truths that reveal themselves only when you are still. We often blame the world around us for the noise that disrupts our peace. We point to the chaos of our surroundings, the constant chatter, the relentless opinions, and the judgments of others. But the truth is, the real noise comes from within. It is not the world that is too loud, it is our own minds that are restless and unsettled. The noise in our minds is fueled by our thoughts, endless, looping, and often unnecessary. We overthink, worry, replay past events, and imagine future scenarios. This inner noise becomes so habitual that we forget what true silence feels like. When you sit in a quiet place, you may still find your mind racing, jumping from one thought to another. You may think about conversations from the past, imagine how you should have responded, or worry about what others might think of you. Even in the absence of external noise, your mind continues to create its own disturbances. This shows that silence is not just about quieting your surroundings, but about calming your inner world. To achieve this, you need to develop a practice of observing your thoughts without being carried away by them. Imagine standing by a river, watching the water flow. You do not try to stop the river, you simply observe it. In the same way, silence teaches you to observe your thoughts without resisting or engaging with them. You let them pass without judgment or attachment. This simple act of observation gradually reduces the intensity of your inner noise. You realize that not every thought requires your attention, and not every emotion demands a reaction. Our tendency to react to every little thing is a significant source of noise. We feel the need to defend ourselves, explain our actions, and prove our worth. This urge to respond comes from insecurity and fear of being misunderstood. When you focus on yourself and remain silent, you break free from the need for constant validation. You learn that your peace of mind is not worth sacrificing for the fleeting satisfaction of proving a point. When you understand that the primary source of noise is your own mind, you become more compassionate toward yourself. You realize that your struggles are not caused by the world, but by your own inner turmoil. This understanding empowers you to take responsibility for your own peace. Instead of trying to change the world, you change how you interact with your thoughts. You practice letting go rather than holding on to every opinion or judgment that comes your way. Silence, therefore, becomes an active choice. It is the choice to step back from your mental chatter, to observe rather than react, and to find tranquility amid the noise. As you practice this inward silence, you start noticing that the world outside also seems quieter. You no longer feel threatened by others' words or actions because you have found your center. Your mind becomes a sanctuary where peace is not dependent on external circumstances but is cultivated from within. Focusing on yourself is often misunderstood as selfishness, but in reality it is the foundation of self-awareness and personal growth. In a world where everyone has an opinion about who you should be and what you should do, focusing on yourself means turning inward and understanding your own desires, strengths, and weaknesses. It is about creating a deeper connection with yourself so that your actions align with your values rather than being dictated by external expectations. Many people spend their lives trying to please others, living up to standards set by family, friends, or society. They constantly seek approval, molding themselves into what they think others want them to be. This pursuit of validation drains energy and often leaves a person feeling empty and lost. When you focus on yourself, you stop living for the applause of others and start living for your own fulfillment. You learn to distinguish between what truly matters to you and what you have been conditioned to think is important. One of the key aspects of focusing on yourself is setting boundaries. When you prioritize your well-being, you recognize the importance of saying no when necessary. You stop overcommitting just to gain acceptance. Instead, you honor your own time and energy. This shift allows you to put your personal growth at the forefront. You begin to explore your own interests, invest in your skills, and nurture your passions without feeling guilty for not meeting others' expectations. Focusing on yourself also means accepting your flaws and working on them without self-judgment. Often people are harsh critics of their own mistakes, driven by the fear of being judged by others. However, when you choose to focus inward, You cultivate self-compassion. You understand that growth is a journey, not a destination, and that making mistakes is part of learning. You allow yourself the space to grow at your own pace, free from the pressure to appear perfect. Another powerful aspect of focusing on yourself is learning to celebrate your successes without needing external validation. You become your own biggest supporter, acknowledging your efforts and achievements without waiting for others to applaud. This self-affirmation builds confidence, making you less dependent on external praise. You develop resilience, knowing that your worth is not defined by how others perceive you, but by how genuinely you live according to your own truth. When you focus on yourself, you also become more mindful of your mental and physical well-being. You make conscious choices to nurture your body and mind, whether it is practicing mindfulness, eating well, or allowing yourself to rest. You understand that self-care is not a luxury but a necessity. You stop feeling guilty for taking time for yourself because you recognize that taking care of your own well-being enhances your ability to be present for others. Ultimately, focusing on yourself is about building a life that feels right to you, not one that merely looks good to others. It is about becoming grounded, stable, and self-assured. You become less reactive to external opinions and more attuned to your own voice. You are no longer driven by the fear of judgment, but by a genuine desire to be the best version of yourself. As you focus inward, you naturally attract the right opportunities and people who resonate with your authentic self. Silence allows you to listen not just to others, but to yourself. In our fast-paced lives, we often forget the importance of listening deeply. We are so accustomed to reacting, responding, and voicing our opinions that we rarely pause to truly hear what others are saying or what our own inner voice is communicating. When you practice silence, you open up a space within yourself that is receptive and attentive. You become present, not just physically but mentally and emotionally. Listening to others requires more than just being quiet. It requires genuine interest and an open mind. Often, people listen with the intention to respond rather than to understand. They wait for their turn to speak rather than absorbing the essence of what is being shared. Silence, however, teaches you to listen without judgment, without the need to interject or prove a point. You begin to understand that not every conversation needs your input, and sometimes your presence and attentive listening are enough. When you listen silently, you give the other person space to express themselves fully. You are not preparing your next argument or thinking of how to counter their words. Instead, you are fully engaged in understanding their perspective. This practice of listening builds trust and respect. People feel valued when they are truly heard, and your silent presence becomes a comforting space for them to open up. But the most profound listening happens when you turn inward. Your mind is constantly filled with thoughts, worries, and ideas, creating a mental noise that drowns out your inner voice. By embracing silence, you learn to sift through this noise and listen to the deeper insights within. You start recognizing the difference between the mind's habitual chatter and the genuine intuition that often gets overlooked. This inner listening is crucial because it guides you toward decisions that resonate with your true self. When you take the time to listen to yourself, you become more aware of your emotions, your fears, and your aspirations. You no longer suppress your feelings or ignore your needs just to maintain an image. Instead, you honor what arises within you, even if it is uncomfortable. This self-awareness brings clarity. You understand why you react the way you do, why certain situations trigger you, and what truly brings you joy. You become your own guide, making choices that align with your values rather than succumbing to external pressures. In relationships, silence as a form of listening can be transformative. Instead of reacting defensively when someone points out a flaw or expresses hurt, you take a step back and allow their words to sink in. This pause shows maturity and respect. It gives you the opportunity to understand their feelings without letting your ego take control. When people feel heard, conflicts de-escalate and meaningful conversations emerge. Silence becomes a bridge rather than a barrier. Moreover, silence teaches you to listen to the subtle cues of life. Sometimes the answers you seek are not in words but in experiences, in the quiet moments when your heart knows something your mind has not yet grasped. You start noticing the patterns in your life, the lessons that repeat themselves because you have not fully absorbed them. Silence sharpens your awareness, allowing you to see beyond the obvious and recognize the subtle messages the world is offering you. Practicing this kind of deep listening, both to others and yourself, cultivates patience and wisdom. You become more thoughtful in your responses, less reactive, and more intentional in your actions. Silence teaches you that not every moment requires a reaction, and not every thought needs to be spoken. It shows you that sometimes the most profound connections are formed not through words, but through the quiet presence of truly being there. Silence does not shout, it whispers. It is in a world where people often equate loudness with strength, it is easy to assume that being vocal and assertive is the only way to make an impact. However, true greatness does not demand attention. It naturally commands respect through quiet confidence and consistent actions. The most profound changes often happen not with grand declarations, but through steady, purposeful effort. When someone constantly feels the need to boast or assert their importance, it often reflects insecurity rather than genuine strength. Those who are truly accomplished do not need to remind others of their achievements. Their presence, their calmness, and the way they carry themselves speak volumes. They know that their work, dedication, and integrity will speak for them. They are not chasing validation because they understand that greatness is not something you proclaim, it is something you embody. Think of those who have made a lasting impact on the world. Many of them were not loud or boastful. Instead, they were dedicated, focused, and persistent. Their work spoke for itself, and their actions carried a quiet power. They did not need to convince others of their worth because their contributions were evident through the lives they touched and the changes they inspired. When you embody quiet greatness, people may not always notice you at first. You may not be the one making the most noise in a room, but over time, your consistent efforts build a reputation that cannot be ignored. Your calm, composed demeanor becomes a source of stability for others. They start to see that while some people are busy declaring their intentions, you are quietly putting in the work and making progress. Quiet greatness is not about shrinking or being passive. It is about being secure enough in yourself that you do not need to dominate conversations or prove your worth with words. You let your results do the talking. This approach fosters respect rather than mere recognition. People come to value your input because they know it is thoughtful and genuine. They seek your guidance because your calmness provides clarity. Being quietly great also means you are less susceptible to external criticism or praise. You are not driven by the need to be acknowledged at every step. Instead, you are motivated by a deeper sense of purpose and fulfillment. Whether people recognize your efforts or not, you continue to move forward, grounded in your own truth. This self-assurance protects you from the highs and lows of public opinion, allowing you to remain focused on what truly matters. There is a unique power in restraint. When you choose not to react to provocations or petty conflicts, you show that your energy is reserved for more meaningful pursuits. You do not waste time defending your worth because you know that real value is evident, even without constant affirmation. This quiet strength makes you resilient, as you are not easily swayed by fleeting praise or criticism. Greatness that whispers rather than shouts is long-lasting because it is rooted in authenticity. It does not fade when trends change or when the spotlight moves on. It remains steady, like a lighthouse, guiding others through turbulent times. This kind of greatness is not about grand gestures, but about the quiet, consistent presence that influences and inspires others without seeking recognition. When you embrace quiet greatness, you also find that your energy is more focused. You are not constantly trying to maintain an image or convince others of your abilities. Instead, you dedicate yourself to continuous learning and growth. You know that greatness is not a destination, but a way of living, one that is humble, resilient, and unwavering. In a world that often values noise over substance, choosing to be quietly great sets you apart. It allows you to remain true to yourself while making a lasting impact. Your influence grows organically, rooted in your dedication and integrity. People come to respect you not because you demand it, but because your quiet strength naturally commands it. You become a source of calm inspiration, showing that true power lies not in loudness, but in steady, thoughtful presence. Choosing silence over reacting to judgment or noise is an act of wisdom and strength. In a world where people are quick to respond, defend, and argue, it takes a remarkable level of self-control to remain silent. Silence is often misunderstood as weakness, but in reality it demonstrates a profound understanding of one's own power. It is the decision to rise above unnecessary conflict and protect your peace rather than wasting energy on proving a point. When faced with judgment, criticism, or provocation, our instinct is usually to react. We feel the need to defend our reputation, correct misunderstandings, or retaliate against unfair treatment. But not every situation warrants a reaction. Sometimes reacting only adds fuel to the fire, escalating tension without resolving anything. Silence, on the other hand, diffuses the situation. It demonstrates that you value your own tranquility over the need to be right. This quiet response often catches people off guard because they expect resistance. Instead, they are met with calmness, which can disarm negativity and lead to reflection rather than conflict. Remaining silent does not mean you are agreeing with falsehoods or accepting disrespect. It simply means you are choosing not to let external chaos disturb your inner peace. You recognize that engaging in futile arguments drains your energy and distracts you from more meaningful pursuits. You understand that some battles are not worth fighting because they do not contribute to your growth or happiness. By staying silent, you are not suppressing your voice. You are selectively using it when it truly matters. Silence in the face of provocation is an act of wisdom because it shows you are not controlled by impulsive emotions. You are not allowing anger, frustration, or pride to dictate your actions. Instead, you are consciously deciding how to respond or not respond based on what serves your well-being. This level of self-mastery requires practice and patience. It means pausing before reacting, assessing whether the situation truly demands your involvement, and choosing silence when it does not. In many situations, silence is the most powerful statement you can make. When someone tries to drag you into drama or manipulate your emotions, your silence conveys that you are not affected by their attempts. It sends a message that you are above petty conflicts and are not easily provoked. This quiet confidence speaks louder than any argument could. It shows that you are in control of yourself, regardless of what others may say or do. Practicing silence also gives you time to process your feelings without being reactive. Often, our first impulse, when hurt or offended, is to retaliate. But words spoken in anger or frustration can cause more harm than good. Silence gives you the space to understand your own emotions before expressing them. You can reflect on whether your response will lead to a positive outcome or simply escalate the issue. By holding back, you allow your mind to settle, making room for thoughtful and measured reactions when necessary. When you choose silence, you are not ignoring the situation, you are simply deciding not to give it power over you. This choice comes from a place of inner strength rather than passivity. It is an act of courage to remain silent when your ego urges you to fight back. It is the realization that your peace is more valuable than engaging in battles that do not serve you. Over time, people come to respect this quiet strength, seeing it as a sign of maturity and depth. There is a timeless wisdom in knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. Not every opinion needs to be addressed, not every criticism needs to be countered, and not every rumor needs your reaction. Choosing silence in these moments is not about avoiding confrontation, but about prioritizing your own stability. You learn that protecting your peace sometimes means letting things go without giving them your attention. Ultimately, silence is not just the absence of words, it is the presence of restraint and discernment. It is a conscious choice to value your own well-being over the fleeting satisfaction of proving someone wrong. It is the understanding that your energy is too precious to be spent on conflicts that do not contribute to your growth. By mastering the art of silence, you cultivate an inner strength that remains unshaken by external noise. You become resilient, calm, and unwavering, knowing that real power lies not in how loudly you respond, but in how wisely you choose your battles. In a world filled with noise and constant distraction, the power of focusing on yourself and choosing silence is unparalleled. It is not a sign of weakness, but a profound expression of strength and self-awareness. By turning inward, you cultivate a deeper understanding of your thoughts, emotions, and true desires. Silence becomes your ally, allowing you to listen more, react less, and grow resilient in the face of external chaos. Quiet greatness does not demand attention, it quietly commands respect. It is not about proving your worth to others, but about knowing your own value. When you choose silence over unnecessary reactions, you protect your peace and channel your energy into meaningful acts. You learn to let go of the need for validation and embrace your own journey. Remember, focusing on yourself and staying silent does not mean isolating yourself or avoiding challenges. It means choosing to move with intention, speaking when necessary, and remaining grounded even when the world around you is tumultuous. Through this practice, you create a life that is not swayed by opinions or judgments, but guided by your inner wisdom and strength. In the end, it is not the loudest voice that leaves a lasting impact, but the one rooted in quiet confidence and unwavering purpose.